Welcome to another Most Average Review. Today we are reviewing Outriders, the new kid on the block of looter shooters. Well, I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of looter shooters. I'm also not the biggest fan of cover shooters or third-person shooters in general, because typically cover is, well, a cover for bad enemy AI. I don't usually enjoy voice protagonists unless it's more of a narrative experience. Outriders has these things, but it's Outriders the game that changed my mind on these things, or at least causes me to overlook these flaws. Well, let's take a look and find out, shall we? It's hard for me to give this game high praises when even as a solo player I have to be connected online. Even if everything runs right, it still has to be connected to an online server. So to all you guys that live in a rural area with unstable or no connection at all, well, fuck off. This game isn't for you in any way. And to me, that's just not okay. And the dev team needs to fix this immediately, especially with how bad the servers have been. Luckily, I haven't really dealt with any issues. Sometimes I get stuck at the title login screen and I need to close the game and relaunch it to actually get into the game. But I have read and seen the horror stories online. We need an offline option, end of story.
Don't do this! I just came looking for my friend!
He belongs here now! We all do! Today, the storm welcomes an apostate into its loving embrace!
How can you listen to this asshole? The anomaly's no god! It's just some electromagnetic planetary shit! It's fucking science, man!
Science cannot save your soul!
Gameplay. I will leave story till the end to talk about. I will start with gameplay and mechanics. I think this game is a little confused on what it wants to be. It's a cover shooter, it's a looter shooter, it's a hero shooter, well, sort of. More of a archetype shooter than hero, but still. In the prologue, they introduced the shooting from behind a little piece of cover, yet once the game takes off, the tagline becomes, "Covers for the enemies." Well, that's not entirely true, due to the fact that I played the game completely solo, and if you don't use the cover from time to time, you get absolutely melted. You can have up to 20 guys shooting you from all directions. And the snipers, well, they can take you down in like 3 hits, depending on character level and world tier. I'll get into the world tiers later, but for now, we'll get back to what I was talking about. They can also stun you and knock you back for 2 seconds, and in that time, you're defenseless, and even if you teleport, they still nail you, so it's extremely frustrating, especially if there are multiple on the field at once. And that being said, the gunplay can be a ton of fun. When everything is clicking, the powers are synergizing, I did enjoy myself. I've been watching a lot of videos online, and everyone seems to compliment this game on the enemies and enemies AI. And, sorry, I guess you have never seen good enemy AI before, because these guys are absolutely brainless. All they do is flank, and they don't flank well, and they stay far away from you and behind cover. Or they are bullet sponges, and they literally just walk up to you with a shotgun and spray. I've noticed that even when they don't peek, but just spray over the cover from any distance, they still hit you with a lot of accuracy. It's not that the AI is good, it's just that the TTK is super high, and if you're in the high world tiers and they throw a lot of enemies at you at a time, that can spawn from usually up to 5 different locations at once. You can get overwhelmed. Even the most skilled players will be helpless at times, just due to how many rounds it can take to take down a single enemy. I would still say to this day some of the best AI I've seen is in early Halo games and modern Doom games. Those enemies can actually react, and different archetypes, and on higher difficulties they will actually act different, not just have a higher TTK. Now there are games like Last of Us 2 and other more linear games that have good AI, but that's a different type of game altogether. Now I know what you're thinking, I'm just bashing on the game because it's not my cup of tea. No, fuck that, not even close. I absolutely hate Gears, but I respect what it does, especially with the limitations of the earlier consoles. I don't like the aesthetic of Borderlands, but I respect the hell out of the gunplay. And Souls series isn't exactly my favorite either, but I would never say it's a bad game just because it's not for me. No, I say something is bad because it's fundamentally, at its core, bad. I would compare the AI of this game similar to the zombies in the Call of Duty Zombies mode if you gave them guns or a ridiculous amount of armor, or both. Now with that being said, it's not all bad. It's actually a ton of fun with buddies and being able to take on the waves of enemies and synergize the different powers together. There was definitely a lot of thought put into the abilities and how they work together. So to wrap up, this game is a bad cover shooter due to the fact that your health doesn't regen and there are no meds. It's a bad hero or archetype shooter because of bad level design and the number of enemies at once. So unless you play on a low world tier till endgame, which I may recommend till the devs work on balancing, you just die way too quick. It also doesn't work as what I think the devs were going for the most, which is trying to combine the fast-paced, aggressive shooting of, say, Doom 2016 and the looting of Borderlands. They also wanted it to be a third person so people could see their loot, and they wanted to appease to COD players with a sprint button and aiming down sights, and the 2-weapon quick swap, which truly hinders this game. You should have a weapon wheel due to how many different types of situations you can come across in the game. I really think People Can Fly tried to blend too many genres and kind of all in the wrong ways. So let's talk about loot. So from a low, let's go to a high. I truly think on every level, this loot is some of, if not the best loot I've ever seen in a looter. And the way the crafting system works and how you can change mods and levels and rarity, you can truly define your playstyle with your loot. I also think the loot really matches the aesthetic and tone of the game. Really well done. There were times where I would use lower level pieces of loot simply because of the perks or passives on the loot were so good it made up for the lower armor level. The guns are the same as the armor in the fact that they have great passives and perks. The best part of the game, or best design decision, was to make it so when you disassemble gear, you keep the mods and you can hot swap whenever. The thing I don't like is the fact that I have to fast travel back to my camp every time I want to use different mods, and if I'm leveling fast I may need to swap gear to stay balanced with the enemies, but I can't swap mods on the fly, so the new gear can completely ruin my build. But overall, the loot and crafting system is top tier, and you can get meaningful loot super early on in the game. There's a gun I got in the demo that I used all the way up to level 15 in the main game. So honestly, congratulations, People Can Fly. You did a great job with the loot, and I think there's other games out in the industry that could learn from how the loot was designed in this game. So let's talk mission and quest design. The mission and quest are pretty bland outside of the main story, and even those missions aren't well designed. You're more just getting through it so you can see the rest of the cutscene that got interrupted by the 30 guys or so you're trying to kill. Most quests are go to place, kill everyone, grab item, and return it to owner. That's literally like everything. Nothing outside of that. Even the bounties and hunter quests are just go to place, kill little baddies to bring out the big baddie, kill the big baddie, and go back and turn in the trophy. The bosses aren't interesting or smart enough to make these encounters exciting. They just take way more bullets than regular bosses. But all in all, I did enjoy myself most of the time playing this game. More so in the beginning than at the end, just because I kind of grew tired of the gameplay. So I just got bored and went back to playing some Apex Legends. Let's talk about graphics and the world design. So the one thing I really disagree with the community on is the fact that this game is ugly. I don't know, maybe I'm fucking stupid, but to me the aesthetic and design is spot on to the tone of the game. And there are some biomes that are absolutely beautiful. Similar to the first time you see that tree thing and avatars start glowing at night when the guy first turns into the blue monkey or whatever. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've seen the movie. But everyone called it generic and bland, and yeah, in the beginning it kind of is, but the first part of the game you play in a shanty town. And then the second part you play in the trenches of World War that's been in the trenches of a world war that's been going on for 30 years. So yeah, like I said, spot on design actually. The trenches reminded me of some scenes from Dunkirk and how they were jumping from trench to trench and trudging through the mud and the bombs going off in the background. It looked great. And unlike most looter shooters, the loot actually matches the world and isn't over the top. It actually looks like it was made from materials in the game world. I think the level design is terrible. Most areas are just giant circles with some sandbags laid out to hide behind, but the world design is done well and I have high praise for it. The characters. Okay, well the characters are hit and miss. I think these two parts of my review are more subjective and border more on pure opinion rather than facts and logic. The main character is, well, okay. I also enjoyed V from Cyberpunk, and I know a lot of people hated both male and female V and their stupid one-liners, but not me. Actually, I enjoyed most of the characters and thought the voice acting was fine. I loved Jacob. Even from the demo, he was my favorite. So I had to throw this in real quick because I didn't know which section to throw it in. But the pacing, like I said in my first video I made on the demo, is terrible. There are way too many fucking cutscenes. Opening a door, cutscene. Jumping a gap, cutscene. Talking to a person, cutscene. Driving a truck, cutscene. Buying loot, cutscene. Blowing away some debris, cutscene. Literally every fucking thing has a cutscene. And if you're playing on last gen base consoles, that cutscene is usually followed by a loading screen. I played on PS5 and I rarely saw a loading screen after cutscenes, but it still happened. So finally, we come to the story. Okay, so the story, let me start by saying I've not completely beaten the game yet, and I know, how can I review something if I haven't beaten it? Well, since the first 20 hours play the same as the last 20 hours, I felt confident on writing this review. And since story and plot are so completely subjective no matter what anyone says, I don't need to see the end to write my thoughts on the game. I personally like the story, and there are parts that generally made me laugh, parts where I felt anger and sadness for what was happening on the screen. And you will notice I'm not talking about any specifics because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. And two, because it's not about what happens, but what you feel as it happens. The first 10 hours are a slog and the story sucks. Nothing subjective about that. But after that, it really starts to take off. The Outrider origin story is a good plot, and the main story itself is a good plot that I wanted to keep finding out more and more about, especially when you find out there's a native, highly intelligent creature on the planet. And I'll leave that for you to figure out more of, but that's when it really starts to take off. So to wrap up, I think the story is good, and I think the world design is good, and I really like the looting system, but the game as a whole is just confused by what it wants to be. And for some, that's fine. Like I said, it's not a bad game. I actually recommend this game to most people once it goes on sale. But the one thing that does hold true, and I give credit where credit is due, is that the game is a complete package. It delivers almost everything promised. I think if the devs stick with it and make a sequel, that's where this franchise is really going to shine. Because unlike Destiny, I feel the devs put everything they had out there and let us be the judge. They held nothing back to try and sell us later, and I have a ton of respect for People Can Fly. More so than really any other dev at the moment. God damn you, Cyberpunk. You ruined such a happy relationship with me and Red. I think in the future this game could take the throne away from games like Destiny. I truly do. So as always, This has been another Most Average review. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like and subscribe for more. If you totally disagree, then shit on me in the comments and prove me wrong. But as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and go make some average plays, my friends.